Coast Guard heroes arriving in the Abaco Islands.
5 young boys create a rescue trampoline.
The first to run a marathon in under 2 hours.
We have seen what we thought was unseeable.
A relay of dogs will lead blind runner Tom Panic across the finish line.
Nicolas Mahut lost in the French Open, but then his 7-year-old son ran onto the cart to give his dad a big hug.
Her and her sister have been heroes for many little girls out there.
I want to thank my amazing mom. She's my hero.
I love you.
Exactly what I was thinking.
When you are free to be you, it is the best feeling in the world.
He's the Sully Sullenberger of pizza.
My family is making a grant to eliminate their student loans.
We know deep down what's right and what's needed.
I'm gonna fight this.
Who says I can't? Nobody!
Here it comes. Never been done in competition.
The category is love, y'all. Love!
Use your heart, your courage and vision to fix, to heal, to empathize, to connect. Because living life for something bigger than yourself is a hero's journey.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Wisner, and I am so excited that you've tuned in to this Power Up Hero session. I'm actually most excited because I have somebody who I'm going to be bringing on who has the same name as one of my friends. So it's just completely awesome, but at the same time, kind of weird. So I'm going to be bringing this person on, and we're probably going to unpack that a little bit. But before I get started, I want you to know that this show is truly about you. It's about you being the hero of your story. We talk about power up heroes, and maybe that word hero may feel like it's being thrown around, but it's good. It's good that it's being thrown around. It means that there's a lot of people doing a lot of good out there, and they need to be recognized for the work that they're doing. So as part of this show, we want you to know that living a powered up life is really about understanding how to get in and get out and get on with your life so you can live a powered up life. And that's really what we do here at PowerUp.org. Our goal is to elevate the level of human capacity. We like to call ourselves human optimizers. So whatever that means, we're here to help you just be better in everything you do. So as we're moving through our presentation today, I want you to think through the pandemic that we've had and other situations that may have happened in terms of social justice and just anything else that's going on in terms of our humanity right now in 2020. And I want to ask you, are you nervous about the possibility of going back into a workplace? I know for me personally, it really was a challenge in the very beginning, just thinking about the situation where our kids had to go to school in a building with other people. And then also the situation of going into work in a building with other people. And we know that the places that we work, they have to follow certain rules and regulations when it comes to building safety and also for the schools, making sure the schools are safe. But I always think, and I'm sure you did the same thing. You always probably only thought about fire. You probably only thought about maybe in case of any hazard materials that are being used in the building. But I'm here to tell you that through this pandemic, we know that any sort of disease may be something that you could also be exposed to at work. And now it's important for us to make sure, are the buildings that we're in, are the physical spaces that we're entering, and not necessarily even just to go to work, but the places we want to do business, are they actually safe? I was doing some research, and experts across the world, they've come together to put resources together. We know that we have a lot of opportunities here in the US to get information about COVID. But one of the things that I found out was that about 35% of Americans today have actually switched to telecommuting. There's actually tons of businesses that have decided that building is not safe anymore because of COVID-19. And so I'm even wondering, should they even return at all? Because if you've been able to function for this long, do you even need to go back into a building, right? So whether you're going into work or maybe you're working from home, whatever it is, I mean, I know we're going to be talking about specific commercial buildings today, but I want you to know that part of my role is to help you see how some of the things that we're doing outside of our homes, right? So through this pandemic, maybe things that we need to bring inside the home. So you may not think that this message today is relevant to you because you're like, yeah, I don't go into a building, but I think it is. And I think it's important to know that. So our guest today is nationally known as a building and safety guru. Today, our PowerUp hero is all about peace of mind of you being in a building. He is a commercial real estate professional, and his name is Jonathan Edward Swindle. Now, Jonathan Edward Swindle has the same exact name as my friend Jonathan. So some people who've actually been following this show before we even launched, we were doing some advertisement, they thought that it was my friend Jonathan who owns HRMG. This is a different kind of Jonathan, y'all. He's the owner of Waveland Property Group, which is a national company based in Chicago. And for the past 15 years, he has grown to be a leader in the management of specifically medical and financial office buildings. The strength of his business has been in the team that he's been able to pull together to make sure that this work is getting done. What I really loved about the way he talked about his business was it's about problem solving. It's about making sure that the people who are concerned with making sure that people have access to buildings to do work or to enjoy, that they are safe and they feel satisfied with the services that are being provided. So Jonathan and a group of other experts actually got together not too long ago, and they created a company, I guess a separate entity called Confirmed Life Safety. And this is an opportunity for businesses to address the issue of safety, but also to let people know when they walk into a building that a building has been certified, that it's actually being recognized as being safe. So it's almost like a stamp of approval. So sometimes, I think of Better Business Bureau, I think, yeah, they kind of let you know that that business is a good business. That's why you see that sticker on their door. So this is sort of like the same thing. But in the age of COVID, I feel like our concern and actually the responsibility that we have to make sure that we have not only well-run properties, because fire is a real thing and all other safety concerns are important in terms of the structures of buildings, right? But also our diseases that could be affecting us as humans. So without any further ado, I want to invite you to learn a little bit about building safety and how important it is today from our PowerUp hero of safety, who is Jonathan Edward Swindle. Welcome, Jonathan.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. I think I'm having bandwidth issues. And yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like I'm being really choppy. And so I apologize, everybody who's watching, if I'm really choppy. Hopefully you can still hear me. If my video is not working too well, I'll get myself out of the video once in a while so that you can actually focus on seeing Jonathan. But it's good to see you, Jonathan Swindle.
You have the backstory on the name?
Yes. How weird is that? You have the same exact name as I call him. Why, Jonathan? How did that happen?
It probably started, I think Jonathan could tell us, but 10 or 11 years ago. I looked on Facebook and I was just basically looking at my own profile. So I typed in my name just to see what was going on with my profile and maybe making it better back in the day when we worked on our Facebook profiles. And I was shocked to see that there were 5 Jonathan Swindles. So just for the fun of it, I went ahead and added all of them as friends, and actually all 5 added me back. And I think 4 of the 5, we've stayed in touch almost the whole 10 years. And Jonathan Swindle, the one that you know, who lives in Corpus Christi, has become sort of a right-hand man to me. He owns an amazing company. He does incredible things, and he's actually helped to grow my primary business, Waveland Property Group, and then also to help launch Confirmed Life Safety, which is great. It's really fun when we're together and we either like meet people together or send emails together. People just don't know what's going on. So
yeah. And I know Jonathan told me when y'all were going to start working together, he mentioned to me that there's this guy that I'm working with in Chicago. And then he said his name's Jonathan. I was like, oh, Jonathan. And then he said Swindle. And I went, what? Like, you for real? I thought he was kidding, but he was for real. And I looked you up and I was like, this is for real. But what are the chances? That name is not even common, right? That last name, I've never heard that last name before. And then Jonathan.
Yeah. I was very surprised that there were a few of us, but actually it's a fun group of people that are really diverse and definitely not cut from the same cloth, but we all get along with each other really well. So that's kind of cool.
How interesting is that? I know I've Googled my name before, and there's actually a town called Wisner. I don't know if you know that. There's a city called Wisner. So I'm going there one day, right? But yeah, and there is a Lisa Wisner out there, another one, right? But yeah, so I just never imagined that I would actually be interviewing two people that have the same exact name, and I know them really well. But it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. And I am so happy that you're on the show. When I heard about the work that you were doing, and I heard about it, I don't even know if it was a year ago, but it was a while back. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I never thought about that. I never thought about maybe when you walk into a building, how important it is for you to know that that building is safe, right? Because if something did happen in the building, did the building make sure that the fire exits are where they need to be? Or, I don't even know all the details about buildings, and I'm hoping you'll educate us. But I'm really glad that you're here on the show today, and I'm glad that I've got to meet you. So I guess just to kick things off, Jonathan, tell us, what do you do for a living?
Sure. So my primary goal is to make sure that tenants are satisfied, being tenants in medical or financial office buildings. We will manage the property and the day-to-day operations, also take care of the leasing, and we're generally working for an investor that owns a property, and they're hoping that we keep their tenants happy so that their tenants want to stay there and continue to do their business there. That's the nutshell of it. Then we start breaking it down into about 100 categories of what it means to keep tenants happy.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So, one of the things that we do here is, we're calling you a PowerUp hero of safety. And I guess you kind of connected the dots and said your job is about keeping people happy, right? Mm-hmm. I think we're all happy when we're safe. I'm sure the people who are watching right now. So, put in the comments, put in the chat if you have any questions about building safety. But I want to know from you, because we're calling you the PowerUp hero of safety, when you talked about keeping people satisfied, what does that actually mean to you when we call you the PowerUp hero of safety?
Well, when it comes to the safety element, which has become much more of an issue with COVID, honestly, we really predicated that on our basic safety principles that were there well before COVID. So the premise is the same. When you walk into your office building, do you feel that it's a safe environment for you to be walking into? This goes back to parking lot lighting. To say that, if it's a cold morning and it's a dark parking lot, do you feel safe walking across it? So one of those issues might be like, is the lighting good enough? Can we improve that lighting? Can we make sure that there's not ice on the sidewalk? Are people able to get in there that are ADA accessible? So those issues then translate into, is the elevator safe? Have we had it certified on an annual schedule? Do we have a good company that's able to manage that well? And so that then translates into now that we're dealing with the world of COVID, of saying, what does this mean to us that we're walking into a building in which there might be a pandemic? Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed my notebook and I'm taking notes because you said a couple of things that I didn't even think about. The first thing was the lighting. I didn't even think about, like, if you're going to a parking lot, is the building lit enough for you to feel safe? Wow. Can you, I guess, in your line of work, right? So before we even get into the details of me having a list, right? So just know that later I'm going to ask you for a list of tips of, like, what should I be looking for in terms of safety, right? Sure. And, I always think, like, there's somebody for everything, right? So I think if you go to a hospital, there's a doctor there, there's a nurse, and I kind of don't want to be a doctor, kind of don't want to be a nurse. There's people for that, right? Just like accounting, like, there's people for that. I love doing what I do. I love being a talent development expert. I love doing trainings, and I love talking to people. That's my thing. How did you get into building safety? It sounds like just like the biggest deal ever. How did you get into this field of work?
It was an evolution, and it really does go back to the idea of keeping the tenants happy. And one of the things that they need is a low rental rate. One of the things they need is a good location and proximity to Starbucks. Those are all elements as well of what it means to say that they like where they work. But what we started to realize is that one of the issues that we weren't focusing on methodically was keeping up on the administrative side of certifications for elevators, for sprinkler systems, for fire monitoring panels. And there's so many systems that have evolved in cities all over America, all over the world, that are either unsophisticated or very sophisticated in terms of does the town watch over the sprinkler systems and the fire? If there were to be a fire, how does that happen? Like, well, what gets notified? Sprinkler system triggers Then the fire department's called. What's the response time? Do they have the floor plans already? Are those systems being monitored? So we were just in the whole umbrella of looking at what it means to be a steward of the tenants and to make sure that they're taken care of. We started to realize that one of the main areas that is often just done routinely but not surgically was life safety. And so we decided that rather than thinking of it as an administrative task, start thinking of it the way that pilots look at airplanes. A $35 million airplane, and there are two pilots going through it, and they're walking down a checklist. They're checking each other. Recently, we were seeing with PPE, when surgeons were scrubbing in, there were two people looking at each other with checklists saying, okay, mask coming on, gown going over. Is this? They were checking them off. Why are we not applying the same level of certainty to the ways in which we inspect $35 million buildings, which might have 700 lives in them? We said, let's apply an aviation method to this.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, you just like gave us a hack, okay? So you have taken what we consider the most important job, right? So taking care of a human life, it's kind of how I feel, like doctors, making sure that everything is perfectly safe. Do they have gloves on? And I feel like sometimes I see doctors wearing like 3 gloves, right? So they're like gloved up, double, triple gloved up. They have the mask on, but they also have somebody checking off the list. Pilots, the same thing, right? Making sure that they have a checklist. So did you start off knowing these things, or is this something that maybe you were managing properties and then you realized that there needed to be a check in place?
We started off with just a few buildings, and we would deal with a building engineer who, these are the secret heroes of buildings. One of the most impressive groups of people are building engineers, because they run these impressive facilities that have literally hundreds of systems going on, and they sort of know them, and each building has its own story, its own history. And usually there's a building engineer tucked away in a little office in the back corner who's kind of a secret genius. And so the key is not to learn this all yourself. The key is to find that person and to document their wisdom, put that down and make it a system. So how do we make that apples to apples? And we look at one building that might be 5 stories and have 30 tenants, or another building that's 10 stories with 50. They're really all ultimately the same. So we're trying to get that knowledge from experts, and to expand that, Waveland Property Group and Confirmed Life Safety are really parental organizations. They're hiring vendors that are specialists in each of their fields. So we don't know anything about elevators, really. We hire elevator experts that we trust are going to be the very, very best at what they do. Anything with fire sprinkler people. Our tutorial staff, which we'll come back to with COVID, the best, and we trust that they know the right protocols. And then over the course of years, 15 years, you sort of end up learning a lot about all those systems.
Yeah.
We talk to people about heating and air conditioning, but am I an expert? No.
I love this. So is your business model that you give people the checklist? Is that what it is? That almost sounds like you're giving people the algorithm for them to make sure their building is safe.
It is, but what we realize is that it's very much like finances. You might have a nice, successful company, and you have a bookkeeper that you trust that works in the office every day that handles all the money. You still hire an accountant in March or April. It's a third-party, non-biased, outside the organization professional whose job it is to audit, to really look and inspect and say, is this being done right? Is there a duty of care? And not to assume that bookkeepers are always skimming off the books. They're not. But that's why you do that, is to make sure that there's no chance. And almost every company, there's checks and balances to make sure that somebody from the outside occasionally is looking at it to make sure it's being done correctly. So Confirmed Life Safety is a third-party perpetual audit of a building's safety systems. So the property manager doesn't have to be doing this themselves, monitoring it third party for them every day of the year.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's get the business out of the way before I dig into you, Jonathan, and figure out, like, how are you like this genius on this? So part of my role is, I guess, to bring value to people. So let's just say I live here in Corpus Christi, you're in Chicago. So we have buildings here in Corpus Christi. If they were to certify themselves, I guess, through your organization, right? It almost sounds like you put the I guess they're still the expert, right? So like that building engineer who's in the room, like at the basement or in the attic or wherever the place is that his office or her office is. I think what you're trying to say is that you can service any business anywhere because you just give them the process. You don't necessarily deliver the experts. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So the building itself, say you're in Corpus Christi, there's a fire panel. I'll just break down one element really quickly. So in a reasonably sized office building, somewhere on the first floor is a large panel. It might be tucked back in a room, but it's actively 24 hours a day listening, monitoring for a fire alarm to go off somewhere in that building. By law, I'm guessing Texas law or Corpus Christi or your county, there is somebody who's saying, I would like proof every year that panel is being certified and that it works perfectly. That way they can relax for that year and trust that it's being done right. In the middle of the night, there's a fire. We want that panel to trigger. We want the fire department to show up. The problem is the property manager who's there at the building has 100 things going on like that. And they're getting these certificates from all over the place. Who's administering those? Who's really checking those out? And we realize sometimes they end up sitting on the desk of these property managers and they're not getting documented well. There's no proof, so we come into a liability issue. Were there to be a bad situation, and we call the owner who may be in California or New York or London, and we say, are you confident that your fire panel had been inspected in 2020? They would say, I have no confidence at all in that. There's no record. So what we do is we go in and we audit it. We ask the property manager to show us that actual document. We put it in a PDF format. We put it up in the cloud, and we turn the icon from red to green.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, I'm thinking of my house, right? So here in Corpus Christi, we always have hurricane warnings. It's like every day, right? So we're used to it. And there's a checklist that we go through in terms of, do we have this? Do we have our documents ready? Do we have this? Da, da, da. And I don't know the last time we checked this system. I mean, do we have the right brackets for the window coverings? Do we have all this? So your job when you work with a company, with a building, I guess you could say, is to make sure that the people who work there, who are the engineers, you're keeping them up to speed, right? So they can always, I guess you have a dashboard that they log into. I mean, I'm assuming it's mobile, right? So they would log in and see that their building is green. So I'm the property owner, I can go in and see that it's green or it's red.
Yeah, so it really, we think a lot about portfolios. So you might have 30 buildings across the country that you're responsible for, and you really can't be in the day-to-day of every single one of those buildings. So you've hired a local property manager in Minneapolis and in Milwaukee and in Portland, and the local manager is taking care of that particular building. Well, you need to sleep well at night. So when you log in, it's 9 p.m. at night, you log in to confirm life safety. You go to a particular building, the one you have in Portland, and it has 80 items, and they're all marked green. You think, fantastic, I can go to bed.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. And also, this is the overarching thing here. When you're a landlord, it used to be a passive role. You just simply own a building, and tenants used to be much more on their own. As things have evolved, there's a duty of care. There's a sense of responsibility. There's a partnership that's been created between a landlord and a tenant. We're trying to help each other out. But part of that is just lip service. It's that we really do need to care about the people that are coming into that environment. They become our guests. And so we're responsible for their visit and their safety. They have expectations, which are the law would call reasonable expectations of safety. Is the landlord not only doing that, but secondly, able to prove that they did it?
You know, I'm sensing a lot of like care and concern from you, Jonathan. So I don't think you would be doing this work if you really didn't care, right, about the work you're doing in terms of people. So I'm going to ask you a question about you, Jonathan, in terms of the work you do and why you do the work you do. So you know how like Superman, you know, he has his superpowers, right? He can fly. He's super strong when he's Superman, right? What do you think your superpower is? How are you able to do this work as our PowerUp hero of safety?
It's not a one-word answer. It would have to be that I think that I'm pretty good at looking at it from the tenant's perspective. If I were the doctor that had a practice and I had 7 doctors working with me and I had a staff of 50 people and we're seeing 400 patients a day, what do I expect? What do I think I deserve? What does my rent get me? What should the landlord be doing? I always start my day by thinking about the expectation. And so I guess that word would be empathy, because I'm thinking about their perspective rather than literally the landlords. At the end of the day, the investor is concerned that their tenant feels that they've gotten a good value for their dollar. Business. And people just don't think of buildings the same way they think of a commodity.
Yeah.
Dollars in exchange for space and services. Are they getting what they paid for?
I love that. So your superpower is empathy. Then that's what I wrote down.
It sounds. Yeah.
I like how your eyes are going down. Like, yeah, I got a heart. You do. I can sense it. I can really sense it, because I know for me, at least, I feel peace of mind knowing that someone like you exists, right? Because we just take it for granted that we can walk into the grocery store even, right? And nothing's going to happen when I'm in that building. We take it for granted. And now with this pandemic, we shouldn't take it for granted that that building is safe, that they're sanitizing, that they're, that they have the protocols in place. And some of the things you mentioned, like lighting, ADA compliance. I guess even as a renter, right? Making sure that my proximity to Starbucks. I wrote that down thinking, what? Like, that's a thing? Like, that's a safety thing, right? A safety of humans being happy. Are the humans happy? They're next to Starbucks.
Are they happy? Yeah.
So there's all these pieces of the puzzle, and we can get into those. But now that we've moved into like the superhero side of you, right? You're a power up hero of safety. Your superpower is being empathetic. So you have care and concern for people's well-being. I'm going to ask you, part of being a hero is going through a journey, right? So when you discovered that you cared about people's well-being, whether it's the landlord, whether it's the building owner, whoever it is, like the tenants, like what made you do this in terms of, maybe tell me about your family, maybe tell me about your background, like what has brought you into this building management? It sounds like building management role. What brought you here? What is the foundation that has created Jonathan to be in this space?
Well, I just honestly feel that it's a void that needs to get filled. And so I don't know if it's incredibly altruistic that my goal was to do something to raise the safety. But you realize that when you start managing buildings and that there's lots and lots of medical procedures going on, and you're there in the property and you're seeing that people are going through real life challenges. Yeah. It becomes very important that we're doing our absolute best to make sure that environment is as good as it can be, so that the doctors and the technicians can do what they need to do to heal people. In our medical buildings, we really feel that, and we have some very good partners in this that talk a lot about how we are a very important cog in the wheel of healing, not just in money making and collecting rent and making deposits and paying vendors. Because we're providing the theater that they heal in. And I think that the underlying value of our family had more to do with making sure that your job is meaningful, that when you look back on what you did during the day, you didn't sort of twiddle your thumbs, that what you did had purpose and was beneficial to people. So I think I end my day generally feeling that it was worthwhile to try and make the buildings better.
I love hearing that. I think we all do our work and we hope that our work matters, right? So it sounds like you feel like your work matters. So how do you know that you're doing the right thing? In this show, we like to unpack the heroic person and understand your thought process. Because, Jonathan, how many employees do you have in your business?
Well, we have 7 at Waveland, and then really confirmed as a conglomeration of a lot of experts that have come together to take this knowledge. And then the auditors will be going out as we continue to hire auditors that will be flying to properties and doing the full walkthrough. So, but our corporate team in Wheaton, Illinois is 7.
Okay. So it sounds like you have a team of people, your associates, who help you get the job done. How do you know as a business owner, right? So you're nationally known as this person who manages safe buildings, right? For mostly medical and financial buildings. And I like how modest you're being. Jonathan, we got to just give you some affirmation here. Today is your day for us to celebrate you, okay? So you're truly amazing. Tell me how you know you're doing the right thing. It's hard, right? Because sometimes you have to pivot. You have to make decisions. How do you know when you've made the right decision?
it's not really a reward-based system. It's a fear of something going wrong system. So when you get through a day and everything has gone well, you'd say it was so quiet today. Like, a quiet day is wonderful. If there's a call at 3 in the morning to say that a building has got a fire situation going on, that's the opposite. So we're looking to be placid and calm and keep things on a preventative schedule rather than a reactionary schedule. So our job is to anticipate what could go wrong, try and mitigate that before it happens, and hope that we're not in a situation where we have to react at 3 in the morning. So so much of what we see when we see buildings reacting to situations was a lack of preparation.
So I did a little bit of research just to find out a little bit about what it actually means to have a safe building, because I wanted to come into this kind of knowing, even though it's not my space. And one of the things I found out online was you have to be prepared, right? So the buildings need to be prepared for anything. And they also need to know what's expected of them. So they have to know the rules and regulations. And then also the tenants need to know their rights. Can you speak to me a little bit about what this means to you? Like, are there any other tips that you might have for people?
Yeah, it gets a little bit tricky because I think people have some blurred lines about where the legal liability presents itself and what the obligations are. What is the duty of care? What are reasonable standards for care? What would a judge say about a landlord's responsibility? So let me give you a bit of a 101 on that. When we're dealing with, say, a large medical office building, one of the tenants in Suite 101 might be a cardiology group that is independent. They have 6 cardiologists and 15 staff members. When you're actually in their space, they have a lot of jurisdiction over what's happening there. So now I'll give you a good example is COVID temperature testing. When you walk into their space, they can enforce whatever requirement they would like to impose before they allow you into the waiting room or into the patient clinical area. That's their jurisdiction. As the building, we really have jurisdiction over the common areas. So when you walk actually into the property, what are we saying is our obligation? And that's been really, really fascinating because we've had situations in which tenants have said, hey, we'd like to do COVID testing in the parking lot. And we say, as nice as that sounds, that your nurses are walking out to the car and doing a quick COVID test in the parking lot, legally, you haven't leased that parking lot. Therefore, you really can't practice medicine in that open space. There's HIPAA violations. You may be aware of HIPAA, but the statement of rules legally nationally that protect the privacy of patients. Fundamentally, that's most people think of HIPAA as how do we protect patient privacy? Well, you really do that out in the open. And even in a building that where we've had COVID, which has been nearly every building, where there's been somebody who's come to work and then later on they've told their employer, I did test positive for COVID, or a patient came in. We can't say to anybody even which practice that was that had the patient. That would be a violation of HIPAA. So how do you go about cleaning the building? How do you go about informing people that there has been a situation while still protecting the privacy is new ground. There's been, as you were mentioning, pivoting and evolving. There have been so many situations where we've said with the lawyers and with the tenants, wow, we have never seen this before.
Yeah.
To thoughtfully analyze what to do next.
Gosh, I mean, I feel like there needs to be a show. Like I feel like I could watch a reality show of buildings getting ready to go back to humans habitating it as workspaces, because it just sounds pretty crazy. It sounds like, how do you like the fact that you're telling me now that buildings don't necessarily own the parking lots? Who would have even thought of that? Like how do you even function? Like knowing, like there's just a lot. There's a lot of things that go into doing business, right? And I think what you're doing is bringing peace of mind to the people who own those businesses, that the boxes are being checked and they can continue to run their businesses without liability. I want to bring in one of my friends, Chris Butler, has a comment, I guess. First of all, he says that he knows the other Jonathan. So he says, very interesting job that you have, which sounds very interesting. So I'll connect you with him later. He's a business I guess he's a business associate who lives in Portland, which is right next to Corpus Christi. So it's a whole other city. So Chris, we got you. We'll get you some information about Waveland Properties and confirm life safety. But one of the things he brought up was pretty interesting. And I'm going to read his comment. You probably deal with buildings and technologies from today all the way back to close to a century old, right? Wow, I didn't even think about that. We're talking about the safety of the building, and we're talking about, and I'm assuming that the elevator is like, up to standards, or, everything is ADA compliant. Like, how do you deal with that?
Right. Every building system is regulated to a different standard. Some are not regulated at all. For example, you might have defibrillators. So if someone were to have a cardiac event in a common area, you see the red boxes on the wall. Those are modern technology. Medtronic usually provides those. But is there a law that says that we have to maintain those and keep them certified? No, there actually isn't. So what would happen, this is why you get into this, Chris, is that you would get a situation where somebody has a heart attack in the common area, the nurse goes to grab the defibrillator off the wall, they put it on the patient, they press start, and the battery's dead. What happens there? Was the patient more willing to go to that building because they felt safer? Was the nurse able to not call did she not call 911 sooner because she thought maybe this would be a good effort and a good use of 30 seconds? And then who's liable now? Is the landlord liable because there was an obligation to keep that battery charged? Maybe not if the state never told him or her that it was their obligation. So you can see how this becomes really tricky.
Oh my goodness. So can I just say, like, in terms of your job, I feel like there needs to be, do you have like a YouTube channel or something where people can learn? Because I went on your website and I kind of picked up a little bit about it, but as we're going into the specific details, I kind of feel like building owners would benefit, if not even, maybe they may not be able to, I don't know how much you charge for your services, but they may not be able to afford you. But I feel like your information that you're providing is universal, right? Does it feel like that a little bit?
Yeah, and Christopher would probably be able to speak to this too, but when we go to a different building, it's really a question of a sort of a SWAT team approach.
Okay.
What is the building? And let's go through these 80 systems. And let's find out, maybe the answer is, do they have defibrillators? And the answer is no. Okay, do they have elevators? Yes, they do. How many? 2. Are those elevators inspected? How often? Once a year. Who does the inspections and where are those reports kept? So we want to just sort of triage a building and really break it down. Mm-hmm. And then we know all those. And the answer might be, to Christopher's point, they might be 100-year-old elevators.
Yeah.
But the mechanics of it may be 5 years old.
Yeah.
Of it.
Okay. So selfish reasons, I'm going to ask you to help me, right, unpack my children going back to school, right? So right now, do you manage any properties that are schools?
We do manage a couple educational facilities, but not as schools that have children.
Okay. So let's imagine that, I don't know, my CCISD here, the Corpus Christi Independent School District, like, let's just say they hired you, right? Because it sounds like they need to. Not that they don't know what they're doing, but I just feel like everybody needs a CPA. That doesn't work in their business, right? Yeah. So I feel like you're that person for safety. And if you were to think through some of the things that you talked about medical buildings, right? And so if you were to think through safety precautions for school safety, because I'll tell you this, and I'm on like in the middle with all this going back to school and not going back to school. Here in Corpus Christi, there's this huge thing about one side, people are like, no, our kids are not going back to school. And then there's the other side who's like, we need them to go back to school. We have jobs as parents, right? So they're like, let's figure this out, right? And also, I guess this pressure, right? The teachers can't function because they didn't come into this profession to go teach online. They create classrooms so the kids can come in and that's the environment that they teach in. So if we were to certify the buildings, right, so that everyone would be happy and know that it's a safe building, can you maybe talk me through some of the points that you think maybe the school buildings should consider?
Sure. I'm going to start off with something that I think is very important to this whole conversation. We nor anyone will ever say that a building is safe. A building can be completely sterilized. It can be fumigated, wiped down, and it's clean in that moment, just like a surgical operatory. I could probably say it's 99.9% chance this building's incredibly clean. We'll never say it's 100%. We just don't know. Mm-hmm. But also, as soon as you walk in, and wherever you've been, you bring that in with you. As soon as someone walks in, the building is no longer certified to be safe. It's just doing its best job. So we're much more concerned with saying, are the highest standards established, and are they being wrought out? Are they actually doing these things regularly? It becomes like a religious exercise that this happens every day at this time. And so janitorial becomes very important. So with an environment like a school where I'd be a concerned parent that had a business like Confirmed Life Safety, I would certainly want to investigate what the cleaning protocol is, and if that's changed from pre-COVID status, what their plan is in the event that there were to be a positive case. Are they isolating just simply a desk, a classroom, a wing of a school to sterilize it? What's the waiting period? How good are they at contact tracing to say, are all the parents in that classroom informed that one of the students, what are the risks of the teachers, and where are they going? How are they monitoring their interactions outside of school? So as a parent, I think those 5 questions would probably pop to mind.
Okay, I really love how you said that. I really, I think, okay, so there's a lot to consider in terms of kids going back to school, and I want to get into I feel like it's a little bit political. So I want to get into all of that, but I'm going to take a little break, Jonathan. And what I'm going to do is just show a video that explains a little bit further about what you do. And for those of y'all who are watching right now, I want to thank you for being on the show. But if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat area. Today, we are happy to have our PowerUp hero of, I guess, safety, life safety for you if you're in a building. His name is Jonathan Edward Swindle, and he's the owner and I guess the president of Confirmed Life Safety. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Each day, as properties across the country open for business, landlords are being held to a higher standard. Tenants expect more, and they're asking challenging legal questions. Is the building a safe place to work? Is the property owner taking steps to protect them? Does the management team keep detailed records? The traditional office building has 20 to 30 distinct protection systems. Many of these are inspected annually by cities, counties, and states. There are literally dozens of inspection reports and countless devices to maintain. Unfortunately, many of these documents are lost in the daily shuffle of property management. Poor record keeping can lead to serious accusations of negligence. Confirmed Life Safety lowers your legal liability by consolidating your building safety information into a central cloud-based location. Documentation is vital if you are legally responsible for one property or 1,000. We work directly with your property manager to gather, audit, catalog, and upload your life safety information into an easily readable, printable, and shareable format. Additionally, we offer professional suggestions and logical solutions to vastly improve tenant safety. After engaging Confirmed Life Safety, you can expect your complete property survey in 2 to 3 weeks. You will also receive a brushed nickel lobby plaque, which underscores your commitment to safety. Good intentions are no longer enough. Request a proposal. Take a step to confirm your building's life safety.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just tuning in, you're tuned into the PowerUp Hero Show. And my guest today is none other than Jonathan Edward Swindle. So those of you all who are Corpus Christians and you know our other Jonathan, then this is not that one. This one is based out of Chicago, and he owns a company called Waveland Property Group. And we're most excited because today we're talking about his endeavor, which is Confirmed Life Safety. And this is an opportunity for you to understand that, just like the video you watched, that the buildings that are either being habited for commercial use in terms of an office building, but even as far as I'm thinking about my home right now, and I'm thinking, okay, this checklist is going to apply to me, and I'm going to figure out how to make my property here at my house safe. Welcome back, Jonathan. We're excited. You are a power-up hero of safety. We uncovered that your superpower is being empathetic. It's empathy. I love it. I love it so much. But I want to do a little fun here. I'm going to do with you right now, I'm going to do our fast 5 finger favorites. And we're going to just ask you a couple of questions just to get to know you a little bit in terms of your power-up hero-ness. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. So tell us, Jonathan, what's your favorite book?
Favorite book is Rules of Civility by Mortals.
Rules of Civility. Can you unpack that like in a sentence for us? What is it about?
It's a case study of different people that got to know each other in New York in the 1940s and early 50s, and looking back on relationships that you had when you were younger. It's in an age when things were a little bit more civil, and people were dressed up to go out to dinner and things like that.
Oh, okay. A little bit upgraded.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so you know what? Can I tell you something about that? So that was something I noticed when I came from Kenya. I guess we would. I guess you just kind of get dressed up for everything. It just seemed like even just to step out the door, like get all dressed up. And I came here and I remember going to classes and there'd be people in their pajama bottoms. And I literally, I was so uncomfortable my first year because I felt like I was super getting dressed up just to go hang out. And I would feel like totally out of place because everyone was so casual, even in what I thought was supposed to be a professional environment. So yeah, so I think it may be a cultural thing here and there.
I don't know if Jonathan told you, but I was actually born in South Africa.
Oh, no, he did not tell me that.
I lived there till I was nearly 8 years old. So I think the way that you dealt with formality and children had to dress up more and you had to get dressed for dinner. And
yes. Like put on clothes to eat in your own house, like proper.
Absolutely. So
how weird. And it wasn't even like a weird thing. Like it was just, no, that's what you do. You get ready for dinner, right?
Sure.
Get ready. Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll unpack that later. Oh my gosh, so South Africa is kind of far from Kenya, right? But you're still not too far away from where I grew up, so that's fantastic. I have never been to South Africa. It is on my list. So I'll talk to you about that, Jonathan.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Next, oh my God, what is it? The fast 5 finger favorites is, what is your favorite movie?
This was tough. I think a movie I enjoy because it's intelligent and it's sort of high energy. It's called The Departed.
The Departed.
Yeah, Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio. A number of other good stars. It's a Boston police thriller.
Okay.
It's very, very well written.
The Boston.
Yeah.
Okay. I write these down so that I know what to do when I need to like just unplug. I'm like, okay, what movie am I watching? Somebody recommended it.
Sure.
The next thing is, what's your favorite song?
This was tough because it's not really my favorite band, but I think that the song "All of My Love" by Led Zeppelin is a really powerful song, and it kind of sticks in my head a lot. I end up, when I'm driving and the radio's not on, I'll just sing it to myself. I'm like, why does the song keep coming back? And for some reason, I like it a lot. Okay,
I have not heard that song. I will go find it on Spotify.
You've probably heard it, but it's just, you don't know it.
I just probably don't know it. Okay, there's a lot of songs like that. And then I look them up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that was the artist. Next is, what is your favorite quote?
I like the John F. Kennedy quote, and we actually have it at our office. It says, those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. So the idea is that you have to be willing to fail miserably, which I like that word miserably. It's like not just a little bit.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to make a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Usually if you want to get something good ever.
Oh, I love that. It's like, it's got to get messy. You got to fail hard. Exactly. That means you're all in, right? You're not just halfway in or out. You're like, dude, let's just do this. And let's just like, if it doesn't work, we fall flat on our faces now and we move on with figuring out how to make it work.
I agree with that.
I love it. So I'm going to add that quote to my pack because I collect quotes, and every day I like to think of what quote am I going to be living through, right? What's my soul force going to be tapped into? And that's a good one for tomorrow. So I'm going to keep that one. Fail miserably.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you a question that has to do with your morning routine. So Jonathan, we are calling you the Power Up Hero of Safety. And we've already unpacked that you have a superpower, which is dear to my heart, empathy. We're so excited to be visiting with you. Tell us, Jonathan, what is your morning routine? How do you wake up in the morning? What is the routine that makes you live an amazing day?
It starts with my dogs waking me up. So I have 2 dogs, and one of them almost always wakes up about 5 or 5:30. And that might sound really annoying, but it's a really wonderful way to wake up with an animal who's in better sense with the sun rising. Dogs are just much more in tune with nature than humans are right now, especially with our screens and televisions. So I like the fact that the dog is saying, hey, it's time to wake up. And I get out of bed and go downstairs, and the dogs go outside. And I'm usually at that point, I'm just awake. There's no going back to bed. And so I really like those 2 hours that are between sort of 5 and 7 before the world is woken up, and I can really get my head clear. I try not to listen to news or to read the newspaper or to get right on my screen and watch, anything that's going on, just because I have enough time during the day to be concerned with the problems that we're facing as a country. And I think it's not healthy to start off with angst and worry. So I try and rather listen to music. I'm a big coffee person. And then just go about thinking through what I'm trying to get accomplished that day. And then what I actually actively try and do is make sure that I'm not ever really in a routine. I don't necessarily leave for work at the same time. I might go in at 7. I might go in at 8:30. I might try and drive to one of our properties and look at it. But I sort of look at the day for its merits and then try and plan accordingly rather than being really rigid in exactly where I am at what time. And that to me, if I can pull that off, that's a good rhythm to be in.
I love it. It's almost like you're living the entrepreneurial life, right? I like how you said that. First of all, I like how you said the time between 5 and 7, you try not to have any inputs. You can just center yourself.
Yeah.
And then I love how you centered yourself with your dog. What's your dog's name?
I have 2. I have Piper and Brody.
Piper and Brody are part of your comfort, right? Piper and Brody make you awake, and they kind of, I guess, center you, right? They bring you back. They bring you back to earth, right?
They're more green. Yep.
Are they down there right now?
They're probably ones. They're all around somewhere. But
all around. I think I heard one of them chiming in. They were like, "I want to be in the interview. I want to talk to. I'm here. I love that." Okay, so and then I really like how you talked about how you let the way the day is going guide you, right? So I think sometimes we can live such a rigid lifestyle. And I think some people think because I have my check boxes and this is my routine and I wake up and I hydrate and I do this, it's not like that every day. And I like how you said that you let the day guide you. Sometimes you want to go in early. Sometimes you think, no, I need to go and look at this property. You know what? I need to take time a little bit more today to myself. I'm going to go in a little later. I love that. So your own day every day, right? It's the way you want to live your day that day.
Correct. They're rarely the same.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love hearing that. So another thing I wanted to ask you is part of our role is to find out what circumstances do you think led you, for me, and I guess a few other people in our community, to call you a PowerUp hero? There's things that you do, Jonathan. There's the way that you live your life, and there's certain circumstances that have happened maybe for you or against you that made it amazing, like your quote, right? You failed miserably and you knew to go the right way, right? Would you say that being a hero is a matter of luck, or do you think you have to work at it?
Yeah, and again, I hope you don't call it humility, but I just think that I'd like to reserve that word here for people that do some more remarkable things than what we do. But in the context of the way that you're using it, I think that it's becoming an expert in your field and doing that to the best of your ability. So we happen to be in a field where it can be sort of behind the scenes. Really, people don't notice leasing and property management and building ownership unless something goes wrong. And so, much like lawyers, your phone usually only rings if there's a problem. Rarely will an office manager of an oncology practice call you and say, "Hi, it's Tuesday, it's 3 p.m. and just wanted to let you know everything is great." And lawyers rarely get that call also. So we have to be in a position where when the phone rings, it's generally a problem that we're going to need to solve. Hopefully it's really easy. Sometimes they're really challenging, but that's really fun, is to have a varied day. Is that you might have a day that's thick with problems and you're really drained, or a relatively light day. I think we kind of like the middle. We don't want a day to be too easy or too hard.
Yeah.
But I guess the hero side of it comes into being able to look people in the eye. And I tell people that I work with, or if I ever speak on panels, is that there was sort of the 5 years of fake it till you make it, where you're hearing a technician speak about an inline reheat system and an RTU, and you're going, yeah, sure. You have no idea what they're talking about. You're just sort of faking it.
Yeah.
There was a day that I woke up once to go to speak at a conference downtown, and I was a bit nervous, and then it just dawned on me, I actually know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Like you had gotten there. You in the beginning was just like, yep, I know what I'm doing. And then now you just realized I'm there.
Yeah, we really do know. Waveland does a great job of having answers that are real answers. And I think that ability to sell a product and look someone in the eye and shake their hand and say, I'm going to charge you $500 for this, but I'm going to give you $500 of value is a really, really rare thing these days. Mm-hmm. And we take a lot of pride in the fact that we are experts in what we do, and we're making buildings safer, and we're helping people have an easier job so that they can sleep better at night and know that their buildings are safer. So for us, just doing what we do well is, I guess, not heroic, but it's an important thing.
You and your humility, Jonathan. It's okay. But that's what makes a hero a hero. They don't even realize that they're saving the building, right? The building is burning down, and they're just like, I'm just doing my job. And that's really what it is. And I always say, even the people who get written up in the history books, sometimes the things that we're doing, they probably thought they were failing miserably. And later, years later, we look back, and those are the people we celebrate because they were going through uncharted waters and they were doing things that nobody else was going to do. So I think your job and your business and your opportunity to have confirmed life safety as an opportunity for us to tap into, for the community to do business with, is important. And so I congratulate you on it. So in closing, I just kind of want to ask you, is there anything I haven't asked you that you might want to share with us about being a hero in real life?
No, I mean, I was just as a follow-up to what we were just speaking about, I think that to all the businesses that are preventative, they really do need to get a bit more of the light shined on them. The firefighter that runs into one of our buildings to save someone is an absolute clear hero. We're trying to do something a little bit more subtle, which is prevent the fire from happening in the first place. And that is just as important as saving it and saving it when the issue happens. So there are so many people in the world that are doing a great job of preventing issues from happening, whether that's in the accounting world or the legal world or the property management world. They are constantly doing their job well and preventing things. So we're happy to be a part of that. It's just a little bit less exciting. There's no fire to talk about, but to talk about, we did our job right.
I love it. The unsung heroes that should not be heard. And if you've done your job, then we will never hear from you, except for when you're on shows like this, right?
Exactly right.
So I want to thank you so much for joining us. How can people get in touch with you, Jonathan? Let us know that.
Yeah, if they'd like to learn more about Confirmed, that's confirmedlifesafety.com, and that gives a full link to our board and how we kind of came about that video that you showed. Thank you very much. And just basic contact information. So we're happy. We're excited to grow. We believe in our product, and we think it's going to make buildings safer. So no reason for it not to continue on.
I love it. And I truly believe that your product is necessary in our world. So I want to thank you for giving me the time. I have 2 pages of notes, and I don't know if y'all were taking notes, but if you own a building or any sort of property, you have a house, whatever it is, you need to keep in touch maybe and find out more of where these panels are that he's having so you can learn more about making sure that your buildings are safe. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. I really, truly appreciate you coming on the show. And congratulations on being a PowerUp hero of safety.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a real pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. Part of our role is to make sure that you're connected with people who, just like Jonathan is doing, right? He doesn't even realize that he's being a hero. So for us, it's about making sure that you know who is making things happen in our communities. So thank you for listening to this show. And if you want to find out more about Jonathan, I invite you to visit our website, which is poweruphero.org. poweruphero.org. And if you want to tell us your story, just like Jonathan did, we want you to also go to poweruphero.org. Or if you know somebody who wants to be on the show, make them on the show by nominating them. We want their positive attitude, and we want their commitment to being a hero in our community. Again, the website is PowerUpHero.org. I'm so excited that you joined us today, and I'm so excited that you're going to take powering up your life seriously so you can live to your fullest potential. Once again, I'm Lisa Wisner. You can subscribe to our Power Up Hero show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Stitcher, on Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere and everywhere that you get any audio or video. We're trying to plug into it. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you're tuned in. I'm so excited you are here. Hopefully you got educated. Hopefully you got inspired. And hopefully you are encouraged to be a hero in real life. Not only for yourself, but I think it's also most important to understand that being a hero is about understanding that you're doing this in greater service to the world. And the work you're doing is important. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next time. Bye.